A 17-year-old girl stands in the cockpit of a commercial aircraft at 35,000 feet, her hands gripping the controls as both pilots lie unconscious behind her. In the next 40 minutes, she will either save 233 lives or become another tragic statistic in aviation history. This is the true story of how one teenager's grief became her greatest strength. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Emma Richardson was not supposed to be on Flight 447 that morning. She had changed her ticket 3 times, moving her departure date forward each time because staying in her empty house felt impossible. It had been 8 months since the accident. 8 months since her father, Captain James Richardson, a veteran pilot with 22 years of experience, had died in a car crash on his way home from the airport. 8 months since Emma had stopped sleeping properly, stopped eating regularly, stopped being the bright student everyone knew. Her mother thought this trip to visit her aunt in Denver would help. A change of scenery, a chance to breathe. But Emma knew the truth. Running away never fixed anything. She boarded the aircraft with her worn backpack and her father's old aviation logbook tucked inside. She had been carrying it everywhere since the funeral, reading his notes and observations like sacred texts. Her father had taught her to fly when she was 14, taking her up in small Cessnas at the local airfield every weekend. They had logged over 200 hours together before he died. Emma had soloed on her 16th birthday, the proudest moment of her young life. Her father had hugged her so tight that day, telling her she was a natural, that she had instincts most pilots took years to develop. Now those memories felt like knives, sharp and unforgiving. The flight attendant smiled at Emma as she found her seat, 12A, a window seat over the wing. Emma barely noticed. She plugged in her headphones and closed her eyes, trying to disappear into herself the way she had learned to do in the months since her father's death. The plane filled up around her. Families with small children, business travelers typing on laptops, an elderly couple holding hands. 233 souls total, including crew. Emma did not know it yet, but she would soon be responsible for every single one of them. Takeoff was smooth. The Boeing 737 climbed steadily into the morning sky, breaking through clouds into brilliant sunshine. Emma kept her eyes closed, but her mind would not settle. She found herself thinking about the last conversation she had with her father. He had called her from a layover in Chicago, excited about a new route he was going to fly. They had talked about her college plans, about maybe studying aerospace engineering. He had been so proud, so full of life. 12 hours later, he was gone. A drunk driver had crossed the center line on a dark road. Her father never had a chance. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Emma opened her eyes and pulled out her father's logbook, running her fingers over his handwriting. He had been meticulous, noting every detail of every flight. Weather conditions, fuel consumption, passenger counts. She read an entry from 2 years ago where he had written about teaching Emma to handle crosswind landings. Emma nailed it today, he had written. She has better instincts than pilots twice her age. If she keeps this up, she will be flying heavies before she is 25. Emma felt tears threatening and blinked them back. She would not cry on this plane. She would not cry anywhere anymore. Crying changed nothing. 90 minutes into the flight, Emma heard a commotion from the front of the cabin. A flight attendant rushed past her row, her face tight with concern. Then another. Emma pulled out her headphones and listened. Passengers were murmuring, craning their necks to see what was happening. A man across the aisle leaned toward Emma. "I think someone is sick up there," he said. Emma felt a cold spike of anxiety. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up, her tall frame giving her a view over the seats ahead. She could see flight attendants clustered near the cockpit door, speaking in urgent, hushed voices. Emma moved forward without thinking, her body operating on pure instinct. A senior flight attendant, her name tag reading Patricia, was speaking into an intercom. "Is there a doctor on board? We need medical assistance immediately." Emma reached the front galley just as Patricia turned around. Their eyes met. "You need to sit down, honey," Patricia said, but her voice was shaking. Emma did not sit down. "What is wrong?" she asked. Patricia hesitated, then made a decision. "Both pilots are unconscious," she whispered. We think it is food poisoning. They both ate the same meal during their break. The captain collapsed first, then the first officer. We cannot wake them up. The words hit Emma like a physical blow. Both pilots unconscious. The aircraft was flying on autopilot, but autopilots could not land planes. Someone had to take control. Someone had to bring this aircraft down safely. Patricia was still talking, asking if Emma was a doctor, but Emma interrupted her. "I am a pilot," she said. The words came out steady, stronger than she felt. Patricia's eyes widened. "You are a pilot? Are you certified? Have you flown commercial aircraft?" Emma shook her head. "I have a private pilot license. I have logged about 200 hours, mostly in single-engine planes. But my father was an airline captain. He taught me. I have been in cockpits my entire life." Patricia made another split-second decision. She grabbed Emma's arm and pulled her toward the cockpit door. "We have no choice," she said. "Air traffic control is trying to find a pilot passenger, but there is no one else. You are it." She punched in the security code and the cockpit door swung open. Emma stepped inside and her breath caught. The captain was slumped in his seat, his head lolled to one side. The first officer was on the floor, unconscious. The instrument panel blazed with lights and information, far more complex than anything Emma had ever seen. But the basic layout was familiar. Throttles, yoke, altitude indicator, heading. Her father had shown her cockpit photos and videos countless times. Emma slid into the first officer's seat, her hands trembling as she fastened the 4-point harness. Patricia was on the radio to air traffic control. "Denver Center, this is Flight 447. We have a situation. Both pilots are incapacitated. We have a passenger with a private pilot license in the right seat. She is 17 years old. We need immediate assistance." The radio crackled with static. Then a calm male voice responded. "Flight 447, Denver Center copies. Maintain current heading and altitude. We are getting you help. Stand by." Emma stared at the instrument panel, trying to process what was happening. This was not real. This could not be real. She was 17 years old. She had never flown anything larger than a 4-seat Cessna. And now she was sitting in the cockpit of a Boeing 737 with 233 people depending on her. Her mind wanted to shut down, to give in to panic. But then she heard her father's voice in her head, clear as if he were sitting beside her. "Emma, when things get difficult, you go back to basics. Aviate, navigate, communicate. In that order. Always aviate first. Keep the plane flying." Emma took a deep breath and placed her hands on the yoke. The aircraft was trimmed well, flying straight and level at 37,000 feet. The autopilot was doing its job. But Emma knew autopilots could not handle everything. Weather, turbulence, and most importantly, landing. She was going to have to land this plane. A new voice came over the radio, different from the air traffic controller. "Flight 447, this is Captain Mike Torres. I am a senior training captain with your airline, and I am here to help you. Can you tell me your name and your experience level?" Emma keyed the microphone. "My name is Emma Richardson. I have a private pilot license with about 200 hours, all in single-engine aircraft. My father was Captain James Richardson. He flew for your airline." There was a pause, then Captain Torres's voice came back, softer now. "I knew your father, Emma. He was one of the best. And if you are half the pilot he said you were, you can do this. I need you to trust me and trust yourself. Can you do that?" Emma felt something shift inside her. Her father had talked about her to his colleagues. He had believed in her. "Yes, sir," she said. "I can do that." Captain Torres walked Emma through the instrument panel, identifying each critical system. He had her check fuel levels, engine performance, hydraulics. Everything was functioning normally. The aircraft was healthy. The problem was getting it safely on the ground. Torres explained that they would divert to Grand Junction Regional Airport, which was closer and less congested than Denver. He would talk her through every step of the descent, approach, and landing. Emma listened carefully, her mind sharpening with focus. Fear was still there, lurking at the edges, but she pushed it away. 233 people. She kept repeating that number in her head. 233 people who wanted to get home to their families. The descent began. Captain Torres had Emma disengage the autopilot altitude hold and manually adjust the throttles, reducing power to begin a gradual descent. Emma's hands were sweaty on the controls, but her movements were smooth. Her father had drilled her on this. Power controls altitude in the long run. Pitch controls airspeed. She adjusted the nose attitude and watched the vertical speed indicator show a descent rate of 700 feet per minute. Perfect. Torres praised her. Excellent work, Emma. You are doing great. Now I need you to start slowing down. Bring your speed back to 250 knots. Emma reduced power further and felt the aircraft decelerate. The Boeing was responding to her inputs, this massive machine obeying her commands. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. She thought about her father, about all those hours they had spent flying together. He had prepared her for this without knowing it. Every lesson, every emergency procedure they had practiced, every landing she had performed with him coaching from the right seat. It had all led to this moment. Patricia appeared at the cockpit door with an update. Both pilots were still unconscious but breathing. Paramedics would meet the aircraft on the ground. Emma nodded, keeping her eyes on the instruments. The airport was 60 miles ahead. Captain Torres began walking Emma through the approach procedure. Grand Junction had a long runway, which would give her more margin for error. He explained the approach speed, the configuration changes she would need to make, flaps and landing gear at specific points. Emma listened and repeated everything back, making sure she understood. Her voice was steady now, the initial shock burning away into pure concentration. She was in the zone, the same mental space she entered during difficult landings with her father. Everything else faded away. It was just her and the aircraft and the runway ahead. 20 miles out. Torres had Emma extend the flaps to 5 degrees. The aircraft slowed and the nose pitched up slightly. Emma trimmed to relieve pressure on the yoke. 10 miles out. Flaps to 15 degrees. Landing gear down. Emma heard the mechanical whine as the gear extended, felt the drag increase. 3 green lights confirmed the gear was locked. Her airspeed was exactly where Torres wanted it, 170 knots. She was flying the approach profile perfectly. 5 miles out, flaps to 30 degrees. Final approach speed 145 knots. Emma made the power adjustment, and the aircraft settled into its final descent angle. The runway appeared. Ahead, a long strip of gray concrete cutting through the Colorado desert. Emma had never seen anything so beautiful. She had also never been so terrified. Her heart was hammering in her chest, but her hands were steady. Captain Torres's voice was calm in her ear. "You are doing perfect, Emma. Perfect. Keep it coming. Runway is straight ahead. You have got this." Emma focused on the aim point, the spot on the runway where she wanted the wheels to touch. Her father's voice joined Torres in her head. "Eyes on the aim point, Emma. Control your descent rate. Let the aircraft settle." 1,000 feet above the runway. Emma made a small power reduction. The descent rate increased slightly. Torres noticed immediately. "Watch your descent rate, Emma. Add a touch of power." Emma advanced the throttles just a fraction. The descent smoothed out. 500 feet. The runway was rushing up to meet her. Emma could see fire trucks lining the taxiway, emergency vehicles with lights flashing. The entire airport had been shut down for her landing. No pressure, she thought with grim humor. Just land a plane you have never flown before with 233 lives at stake. 200 feet. Emma began to ease back on the yoke, starting the flare. This was the critical moment. Too much, and she would balloon back into the air. Too little, and she would drive the plane into the runway. Her instincts took over, muscle memory from hundreds of landings in smaller aircraft. The nose came up gradually. 100 feet, 50 feet. The ground effect cushioned the aircraft. Emma pulled the throttles to idle. The main wheels kissed the runway with barely a bump. Perfect. She held the nose up, letting aerodynamic braking slow the aircraft. Then the nose gear settled onto the concrete. Emma deployed the spoilers and applied reverse thrust, the engines roaring as they pushed against the direction of flight. The aircraft decelerated rapidly. Emma pressed the brakes gently, careful not to lock them up. The runway stretched out ahead, plenty of room. The speed dropped. 80 knots, 60 knots, 40 knots. Emma steered the aircraft down the center line, using the rudder pedals, keeping it straight and true. 20 knots. 10 knots. The aircraft rolled to a complete stop. Emma sat frozen in the seat, her hands still on the controls, not quite believing what had just happened. Captain Torres's voice broke through her shock. "Flight 447, you are on the ground. You did it, Emma. You just saved 233 lives. Your father would be so proud." Emma felt the tears come then, hot and unstoppable. They poured down her face as the reality crashed over her. She had done it. Against impossible odds, with no training on this aircraft, she had landed a commercial jet. Emergency personnel swarmed the plane. Paramedics rushed aboard to attend to the pilots. Patricia appeared at the cockpit door, her own face streaked with tears. She pulled Emma into a fierce hug. "You are a hero," Patricia whispered. "An absolute hero." Emma could not speak. She just held on to Patricia and cried, releasing 8 months of grief and pain and fear. The passengers were evacuated safely. Both pilots were taken to the hospital and would make full recoveries. Emma was escorted off, the aircraft by airport officials, and immediately surrounded by reporters. News of the teen pilot who saved Flight 447 spread across the country within hours. Emma's face was on every news channel, every website, but she did not feel like a hero. She felt exhausted and overwhelmed and grateful to be alive. Grateful that everyone was safe. Grateful for every hour her father had spent teaching her to fly. In the weeks that followed, Emma's life changed completely. She was invited to airline headquarters where executives thanked her personally. Captain Torres met her in person, a gray-haired man with kind eyes who hugged her and told her she had the right stuff. The FAA launched an investigation into the incident and found that Emma had performed flawlessly under unimaginable pressure. She received commendations from aviation organizations around the world, but the moment that mattered most came at a quiet ceremony where the airline presented her with